Welcome to No Fugazee Podcast. I'm your host, Cooley. Tonight is debate night. It is Wednesday, September 18th. We got a special episode for y'all tonight. Woke student versus Cooley. Let's get into this debate, man. Gabby, off. You done. And you want to leave too? This is how our relationship goes. God over man, man over woman, woman over children. All right, chat, we are back. So, once again, tonight is debate night. It's a little different from the usual debates. Normally, we keep it open, to the public where, people could just join the stream. You can click that link and join the stream. Tonight, it isn't that. Tonight, man, we have a young lady that's going to be joining the stream she featured on Jubilee podcast. Pretty big platform. She said she was on there twice. My team reached out to her. And she said she was down for the debate. So we're doing a debate, man. It's going to be pretty cool. Without further ado, though, let's get into normal schedule programming. So we got some links in the description. First link, if you like this podcast and you want to become a member, click that link and become a member. We got 3 tiers. First tier is Gang. Second tier is Hitman. Third tier is Mob Ties. Go ahead and click that link if you want to continue to watch this podcast grow. Looks like we've been suppressed in the algorithm a little bit. I'm like, dang, they're really doing that during election time. Hey, but it is what it is. But looks like we got out of that suppression, and we are currently, I just posted a clip yesterday, and that's already at like 75,000 views. So it looks like we good to go. Second link in the description is for one-on-one coaching. I coach men on masculinity, dating and relationships. Men and women on dating and relationships. I do couples coaching, and then I also coach media and marketing. I grew my podcast platform pretty big and pretty fast. So if you want to, know how to monetize your stuff and how to go viral and how to make money, go ahead and click that link. I got you. The third link is going to be for our merch. So we do got some merch. We got the Mr. Man glasses in there. We got the shirts, the God over man, man over woman, woman over children, t-shirts. Go ahead and support the podcast by purchasing some merch. The next link is going to be for the Clips channel. We've been posting like 2 clips a day on the Clips channel. So keep supporting and subscribe to the Clips channel, man. We need to get that to 100K as well. Then we got the Discord. If you want to stay up to date on all new things coming with No Fugazee, go ahead and click the Discord link. Y'all probably looking like, man, Cooley, why you got the cap on your head today? Listen, man, I just got my hair retwisted and I ain't do my cut yet. So I'll just do the cap on. The oils is still in there. I just got it done today. So don't go ham on me too much. Let's see what else we got. We do have another few links. Yo, go ahead and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, man. Follow me on Twitter. We got the Twitter link in there. I got like 800 followers on Twitter. I'm trying to get that up. So go ahead and support me on X. All right. Okay. We are accepting super chats today. So if you have any questions for myself or the young lady that I'm going to bring up here to debate, you can go ahead and send in a super chat. Regular chats won't be read. Only super chats will be read. Depending on how the debate flow goes, I may get to super chats in the middle of the debate, or definitely it will be at the end of the debate for sure. But go ahead and send in super chats if it's some questions that's worthy to the topic that's pertaining to myself or her viewpoint. You can go ahead and send a super chat, and I'll try to ask that super chat right away. We'll read that super chat right away. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring up Juliana. Hey,
Hello.
welcome to
Hi,
No Fugazi Podcast. How are you? And is your name Juliana or Juliana?
Juliana.
Juliana. Okay, Juliana. You could go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience.
Yeah, hi. I'm Juliana. I am a college student. I go to UC Santa Cruz, and I am on the left-leaning side of politics.
Okay. She's like, yeah, I'm on the left leaning side of politics. Okay. Were you happy that, Kamala Harris got so much media press and she's looking like the golden child right now because the media loves her?
I think it's a little silly because Taylor Swift recently endorsed her, and because Taylor Swift has gotten voter turnouts up so much, it's kind of making me wonder how the election is going to go. With Trump getting shot, obviously gaining more supporters, as well as Kamala's endorsement from Taylor Swift. So I'm just a little excited to see how it turns out, and how the election turns out.
Okay, yeah, me too. I mean, I'm on Trump's side. Seems like you on Kamala Harris' side. So, we got some opposing views, but that's okay. So, everyone that's in the chat, let me go ahead and check Facebook real quick. Make sure we are live streaming on Facebook. And everyone that's on Facebook right now, if you're tuned in, I'll keep it live on Facebook for about maybe about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the topic. And then I'll go ahead and close down a Facebook stream. And if you want to continue watching, you would have to come on over to YouTube. So I'll probably, butt in a conversation and just close down a Facebook stream and let you guys know when I'm closing it out. But okay, so tonight's topic is about, let's see here, I actually written it down. It is about the termination of unborn children and LGBTQ plus rights. So Juliana is going to have 4 minutes to present her opening statement, and I'm going to have 4 minutes to present my opening statement as well. And let me actually repeat that. So it's this debate is pretty much about the termination of unborn children and LGBTQ plus rights, and if they are both a net positive or a net negative for society. So that is the debate for today. So, Juliana, do you want to go first, ladies first, or would you like me to take it first?
You can go ahead and go first.
Okay, you sure?
Yeah,
I
I'm
like to be
sure.
a gentleman, and usually, okay, I'll go ahead and
I
take it
appreciate
first.
it, but go ahead.
I'll take it first. So, everyone that's tuning in right now, today's debate is about the termination of unborn children and LGBTQ plus rights, and if they are both a net positive or net negative for society. If you watch my podcast, then you know it's a no-brainer that I'm on the side that they both are a net negative for society. How can it be positive if you are stopping the process of beautiful children? Everyone loves kids. How can you also think it's a net positive for society for people to partake in unnatural, filthy acts and promote these acts in the public to our kids? If Juliana is secular, she'll justify the acceptance of LGBTQ plus foul acts by saying, as long as they're not harming anyone else or themselves, then their actions are fine. Or if she's a feminist, liberal Christian, she'll try to justify the foul actions of LGBTQ plus and the termination of unborn children by saying God says not to judge. Or she'll say, I can't tell anyone what to do with their body. So if she is a woman of faith, her normative ethics are incompatible with her meta ethics, meaning her entire worldview is a complete contradiction. In regards to LGBTQ plus, she favors LGBTQ plus in favor of self-identification, meaning she believes it's acceptable to allow and accept whatever people want to self-identify as. So under her worldview, there's no normative ethical rejection she could possibly make to stop herself from accepting that I currently identify as the correct person on all topics, that I identify as the winner of this debate, and it is over. Of this debate, and it is over. If she rejects, then her entire worldview is a contradiction again. And the only thing her worldview is loyal to is the establishment of LGBTQ plus, not actually the laws under self-identification, which proves that the whole thing is a psyop to get people to accept what they truly know to be lies. That pretty much sums up my opening statement. I think I completed that definitely in under 4 minutes. So, Juliana, I'll give you 4 minutes and you can read your opening statement.
Yeah, of course. So mine's not nearly as long as yours.
Cool.
So initially, my abortion statement my termination of a pregnancy statement is that legal termination of pregnancies are necessary as it is crucial to save the mother's life and livelihood, as well as protecting the livelihood and future of children. Um, and then in addition, regarding the LGBTQ rights, and you hit the mark. I am a woman of faith, and
Okay.
you might think that that is a contradiction, which I have been getting a lot, and that's okay. But people who are LGBTQ or part of that community are no different from me as a human person. And I have been corrected by this. The Bible says that you can righteously judge. Um, and but at the same time, we are not supposed to hypocritically judge. So with that being said, I do not think it is fair for me to judge other people when I myself am a sinner. And that's my opening statement.
Okay. All right. Cool. You want to hit the first question? Since I went first, I'll allow you to ask the first question if you have any.
Yeah. So obviously, in my opinion, that you can't just absolutely prevent abortion. Termination. Sorry, I need to get used to that. What would you offer as like a solution? What would be a realistic solution?
So, in my worldview, I think that the termination of an unborn child is unrighteous. It is not morally good. So, with that being said, in one scenario, if the mother's life is in jeopardy, then that's the only time I would grant it. But if it's for grape or if it's for, any other things, I would say if the mother's life is in jeopardy, yeah, that will probably be the only thing. And then the other thing is if it is grape, I'm not in favor of that, but I still won't, in my worldview, that would be illegal.
Illegal to undergo termination or for the violation to happen? Or
Uh,
both?
well, both.
Okay. Okay. So, um, I consider myself pro-choice, obviously. Again, as a woman of faith, I would not get an abortion, or I would not terminate a pregnancy myself. Um, but there are so many situations where I do feel that legal termination does produce a net positive for society. For example, children who are born into families where they are wanted tend to have higher educational outcomes, as well as success, and there's a higher likelihood of greater parental investments in their children. In addition, I think that some of the other, I guess,
So,
solutions.
question for you there, though. You said that, well, yeah, statistics show, when a kid is, being raised in a two-parent household, that's the best. A nuclear family is the best for society and for the development of children. That is correct. you used the words and said, in a household where the parents actually want them. So here's the thing, right? When contradictions kind of happen, and that's why I said it in my opening as well. I didn't know if you were uh, a Christian, a woman of faith, or if you were secular. So with that being said, since you are a woman of faith, there's a Bible verse, Psalms 27:10. Though my father and mother have forsaken me, the Lord will take me in. So even if a child is born in a world where the parents forsake them, meaning, the parents abandoning them, or the parent, like, think about termination, like termination of unborn children, like that's unacceptable in the Bible. You get what I'm saying? So like, even if you're born, don't matter what your circumstances are, a child that grows to an adult still has the ability to seek and find God, and God will accept you. You agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
So if you agree with that, then why are you against, how can you be pro termination?
Because when you look at the statistics of the children who are brought into the world by unwanted parents, they're most often placed in foster care. A lot of foster care systems there are thousands of children that are being exploited by their foster parents, using the money that the government gives them to benefit themselves. Most foster children age out of foster care, and and again, like I said, I grew up Catholic. That's what I grew up as. A lot would not consider me Catholic, so I'm just gonna say I grew up Catholic. I don't have a worldview in which everybody is Catholic. I don't know how I can tell somebody who isn't of faith um, to say, well, do this instead. And ultimately, no matter what, right? No matter what I think, no matter what I say, I can only say so much, right? Like, as at least for me, I learned that I would never advise someone to terminate a pregnancy, right? But
Okay.
I would never advise it. I think that there are a lot of negatives to getting a termination um, on the woman, and I think people need to be
So
educated
quick
about that.
question. Do you think all right, so let's just speak about the woman real quick, and then I'll go to the other points you made. So, do you think that there are more pros to the woman terminating the kid, or more negatives to the woman terminating the kid? Now, we're not speaking about the kid yet. We're speaking about
Okay.
the woman. So, do you think there's more pros or more cons to the woman?
I think that there are more pros because I believe that women who get a termination, for the most part, are educated about it, know what is going to happen, and have really thoroughly thought about this decision. I think there's a very big misconception in which women are going around saying, "Oh, I'm going to go get my third termination of the week." That doesn't happen. And it's not a common thing. And
So wait, you said that you think that women are. So you said that you think that for the woman, if she's pro terminating her unborn child, you think that there's more pros to that than there are cons.
I
For the
think
woman, there's more pros.
I think if the
Now,
woman Oh, sorry, I'm
question
so
for
sorry.
you. No, you're fine. I just had a question because we'll just take it, point by point and everything. And you could ask me questions too and take things point by point. But I'm just fully trying to understand your worldview. So if you think that it's more pros to the woman, but just a minute ago you said that, you know, like if there's more pros to the woman terminating the kid, but you also said that women are educated. That's the justification you made. You said, well, women are, more usually the women that terminate the kids, they're usually educated on the process and stuff like that. So it's a pro. It's not like they're doing something that it's unheard of or they don't know about. They know about these things. They did their research. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, then if women are truly educated on this, because you're speaking about sex, that's what we're speaking about.
Yeah.
If she's truly educated on it, my question for you is, why didn't she use protection? One, why didn't she sleep with the right man that she wants to have a baby by? Right. So there's things that I think that it doesn't make sense that if you're saying you're saying that women that, go through and terminate the kids, they're well educated. I would say that they're not well educated because they're having unprotected sex, and normally they're having sex with guys that are unworthy, right? Percentages show that most termination of unborn children happens from it's just, oh, okay, I don't want the kid. There's very low percentages for grape and very, very low percentages, like I'm talking about in the 0.1% of where the mother's life is in jeopardy. So that's why she terminated her child, right? So since the percentages is so low for those things, why would you make the rule the exception?
No, and I actually do want to touch on the education point, and I think that was a very great point that you brought up,
Okay.
that a lot of teenagers are not educated in sex. And when I said educated, I meant that typically when you go to get a termination, you are told the process, you are told what is going to happen. And so when I'm saying there's more pros, right? When people know what is going to happen, they are able to then make that right decision for themselves. People who do not want to get one will not get one. But I do think it's important to have that choice. And along with the education aspect of it, I do think that sex education in schools need to be more. I don't want to say, I say honestly, from what I've seen, from what I've experienced, and what I have seen in statistics, there is a lot of promoting abstinence, and that is a completely valid choice. However, we also have to take into fact that some people will just ultimately choose not to be abstinent, and because of that, they need to learn about how to be safe, how contraceptives this is, and especially
You
with
paused a little bit there. You said you were saying contraceptives?
yes.
Okay, it was a little pause. It was like a
Oh,
little,
I'm
I
so
guess, a
sorry.
connection
Yeah.
error. No, you're fine. It happened for a quick second. I didn't really hear what you said, but okay, I think I get the gist of what you're saying. So I mean, people know things all the time, but they make wrong decisions. How many people knows not to drink and drive, but they still drink and drive. Like people know not to rob a bank, but they still rob a bank. People know, not to commit SA, but they still commit SA. Like people know all of these things, but they're still doing it. So the justification that you're making about, knowledge, that one of the pros of women having, women going through the process of terminating the kid, your justification is, well, she would know. So therefore she would know about the process. She'll get educated on it. She will have knowledge about it. So therefore that's a pro to going through the situation. I don't think that makes sense, is because she could know exactly what she's doing, because people know exactly what they're doing, but they just make the wrong decisions. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, drinking and driving, DUI. You know what you was doing, but you just made the wrong decision. So, question for you: do you think the termination of unborn children? Do you think that it's morally wrong?
I think that that is unique to the individual.
So
To
you
me,
think, so you think morals are subjective, not objective?
I think everybody has different morals, and
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. You think morality. So you said that you're a woman of faith, and I'm sorry, you said that you're Catholic.
I grew up Catholic.
You grew up Catholic. So if you grew up Catholic and you believe in God, you must believe in objective morality.
Yeah, I live
Okay.
to the best that I can by the Bible. That is what I do. Again,
Okay.
this is
So
why I
yeah, go
would,
ahead.
for me, never get an abortion. I mean, sorry, I would never terminate a, my unborn child. That is how I feel.
Hmm.
I ultimately think if we're gonna go back to the faith topic, I am very, very, in regards to my faith, I tend to focus on my relationship with God. I think that what other people do is between them and God. All I can do is try to all I can do is try to live the best to my ability to advise other people to the best that I can and inform them. And if they don't listen to me, then that's
I get
that.
what you're saying. Like, so, okay, you agree that, the Bible says, preach the gospel. If you know of me, preach it, worship me. Worship me, but then also preach it, meaning that tell other people about me. Tell other people about all the wonders and, the wonders that you have in life from finding me. So it's like a fully worldview contradiction that we're having, that you're still having here, that I want you to understand. Let's go back a step, because I think you said some other things in the beginning that I wanted to touch on, and then we'll go back to this step about, the morals and everything like that.
Of
So
course.
you said with one of the pros, it was actually before we got to the pros, you were saying things like, well, the mother that goes through this, there's it's a whole lot of things that people go through in life to where, a child isn't necessary, meaning that they can make the choice themselves to not have the child. The woman can make that choice herself to not have a child, when meanwhile, the child is 50% of hers and 50% of the man that she laid with. So you bring up all of these, cons for the woman, not having, not terminating the kid. You talked about the pros of her terminating the kid. I want to know that. So I think this is like a suffering argument. I think where how you view it, you're looking at it, well, suffering is too overwhelming sometimes. So I think that women should have the right to terminate the kid because their suffering could be too much. And I agree, if it's, besides just the one factor, if her life is on the line or the kid's life is on the line, I think that the mother should, at that moment, make the choice. And termination of an unborn child should be her choice, since her life is on the line. So it's a suffering argument. And if you are a woman of faith, I would say that where do we get, like, you have a worldview that's very secular, but you say that you are a woman of faith. If you are a woman of faith, like, think about it. If you're like, your secular worldview is constricting you to only think about how to handle suffering with things that are on earth. Like, you're only looking for ways to overcome suffering by earthly things. People that are people of faith, Christians, Catholics, Islam, all of these people of the Abrahamic faiths, they find meaning. They find meaning to handle their suffering outside of, the earthly things. So they find meaning through divine command. They don't find meaning through just the earth. So I want to know why you're only looking, your only justifications for the woman to terminate her unborn child is because suffering is too bad. Rather than, since you are a woman of faith, thinking and coming to the conclusion, well, we have divine command. We believe in God. And with God, we can handle all suffering. And with God, we can overcome suffering. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like a contradiction there. Does that make sense? Or do you have
No,
any?
and I fully understand what you're saying, and I can understand why my worldview wouldn't make sense to the average Catholic or the average Christian, and I can understand where that could be confusing. I think that I still stand by what I say and what I believe, and whether people think that I am a woman of faith or not, all I care about really is what God thinks. And going back to the whole suffering,
Yeah.
that is a good point. But is it moral then to bring a child into the world and then have them potentially suffer?
The Bible says it. I just read you Psalms 27:10. Though my father and my mother have forsaken me, the Lord will take me in. So even though you are born in a circumstance where life is bad, with your worldview and how you're thinking, it's like saying, I was born in the hood. I was born, you know, Section 8, didn't have too much, had to wear my brother clothes. My life was very, very terrible. With your worldview, it's like, oh, dag, he's going to be born in the projects. It's gun violence everywhere. It's, killings and shootings going on. It's probably not to have a kid in this environment. With your worldview, you would advise my mother to terminate me. But instead, my mother is a woman of faith. So she's, doesn't matter the circumstances. I'm still going to, procreate. Think about it. In other third world countries where they don't have clean water, where they can barely, gather enough calories to survive, why should they have kids? With your worldview, it's like saying, well, no, it's too much suffering. Why would you bear a child with all of this suffering where you can choose not to have a child because you don't want your child to go through suffering? If you are a woman of faith, you know that no matter how much suffering you go through, you can still find God and overcome that suffering. You can find happiness being poor. You can find happiness and peace being, not having all these worldly, Western, modern day things. Like, you think that people in third world countries don't have peace? I'm sure they have peace and they're very happy, even though they don't have the fine things that we experience in America. So it's like, I'm trying to say that suffering is going to happen. That's just life. If you read the biblical text, suffering happened in the beginning all the way through the end. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like, okay, well, to stop suffering, correct me if I'm wrong. How I'm taking it, right? The way you're speaking is like, the only way to stop suffering is to not have any more kids.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, then explain.
No, of course. Well, I think that there's a lot of factors that go into it. I think that you're generalizing very unique situations. And when you're just talking about, like gun violence occurring, all of that stuff happening around, right? Like that is, some people see that and think, I don't want to bring a child into this world during this time. Okay, right? So then they choose not to get pregnant, and that is valid. The in regards to saying the poor finds peace, all of that, in like how do we know that? How do we know that? Because I just can't believe that like people suffering on the street have some kind of peace. And
I
I
could tell
think
you that from my own anecdotal experience. I grew up not poor as third world country poor, but I grew up in the slums of America, and I was still happy. My childhood, I still had a great childhood, and I'm thankful for my childhood. I have the original David and Goliath story where, big bullies, big bad guy tries to come over, and I go ahead and defeat the big bad guy. I grew up in a neighborhood where, gunshots was firing off while I was sleeping, fights and killings was happening right outside of my front doorstep. And I grew up to be a fine man, and I have kids. and I'm raising my kids to be good. So that's just my anecdotal experience. And speaking to the point that you are a woman of faith, how can you not think that you can overcome all things through God? Like,
I'm
how
so
can you
sorry, you
not
cut
think
out.
that? Okay.
Could
I think
you
you're
yeah, repeat the question?
sure. I said, since you're a woman of faith, how can you not think that you can overcome all suffering through God? Like who are you to who are you to act like God and to be an acceptance of, termination of unborn children, which it's a process that's already happening, right? We didn't even speak about that process. We could have a debate on, the process, the 6 weeks, the 35 weeks, all of these things. I'm sure we'll get to that. But if you are a woman of faith, then why would you want to stop that process? We all know that kids are a beautiful thing. There's not one kid that's born that you're not happy about when that kid comes out.
I believe that you can overcome suffering through God. But
Okay. So then,
imagine
so then,
explaining
so then
this
why would
to
you
an
stop?
atheist. I can't go and tell an atheist that you can find this through God because they are not willing to.
Well,
And there's only so much that you can do to make people willing. And when you say preach the gospel, absolutely, absolutely preach the
I was
gospel.
gonna say that. So
But
why not
but
spread the
what happens
gospel?
when they don't listen? Then you go to the church, you ask them, what do I do? What do I do? My friend wants to terminate her pregnancy, and I think that she has a support system. At that point, and if the church tells you what to do, you do it. If the church tells you to leave it be, you leave it be, because ultimately the only real judge is God. All we can do is try to live by his word individually. We can't always try to control others. And when it comes to that, I think that if we are to make it illegal, it is not going to end. It never will end. Even after all of this passed, after Roe v. Wade being taken down has passed, abortion I'm sorry, anything, studies have shown that termination does not decrease by making it illegal, but rather increases unsafe and more deadly termination.
Yeah, but that's that's nonsensical to say because okay, should we make certain things legal just because people are going to do it anyway? So should, heroin be legal because, people are going to do it anyway and they'll try to find, safe. We might as well make it legal and make it as safe as possible for people to do these degenerate things. Like with that logic, you're pretty much are in favor of making bad things legal so people don't do it illegally and harm themselves. That doesn't make sense because if they're doing bad things anyway, they're harming themselves or someone else. So we should try to make it illegal and put restrictions on things so that they can't harm themselves and harm unborn children. You know what I mean? And I would also say that most of these women that I've had many of them on my podcast that had, that terminated their children, they fall into depression and anxiety. It's something that they can never overcome. And if you go on TikTok and if you hear the stories, that's one of the things that most women in their right mind, there's many TikTok stories like, I should have never did it. If there's one thing I regret, right, it's, terminating my kid. Women normally have two regrets: being with their ex and terminating their kids. I'm just saying, that'd be their two regrets. So I think the biggest regret, though, is the termination of their unborn children. But Okay, okay, I got a question for you then. So, because there's like many contradictions within your worldview, and you said that you know that there are certain contradictions, and you're fine with that. Um, and that's understandable that you are aware that it doesn't add up. But so you said something before, like you want the reason why you're pro termination of unborn children is because you don't you want people to, who are you to say what people can do with their body, right? And I understand that. So, and then you also said like you're not the one to judge. I think that's, you said that earlier. You said a whole lot of things earlier. I was just kind of letting you speak, so I'm trying to remember exactly what was stated. But correct me if I'm wrong. One of the justifications is because you said in the Bible, "Thou shalt not judge." Right? That was your justification. And then, like, who are you to judge? Because
Sorry, so I was
you're
actually
in
corrected.
sin.
Yeah, so I was corrected on that by a few people. The
Oh,
Bible
okay. You were
does,
saying that you were already corrected on that.
yes, the Bible says
Got
that
it.
you can righteously judge. I know that. And I was corrected on that.
Okay, so
However,
that was my question. And so, since the Bible says that you can righteously judge, and you don't want to righteously judge, like you're always looking for, like you just said out of your mouth. However, like you're always continuously looking for a justification to do something that you truly know is wrong.
well, I haven't ever had a termination, so
That's the thing, right? So,
I
and you've also stated that you wouldn't ever have a termination. You would never, the words came out of your mouth, if I hear it correctly. You said that I would never terminate my child. So the thing is, if you won't ever terminate your child, why wouldn't you encourage the good things that are in you? Why wouldn't you encourage other people to embody those same good moral characteristic traits in themselves? Like, it seems like you're being cowardice about it, and it's like, well, here's my moral standards, and here are the things that I do and don't do, and I think it's righteous. But for other people and what they do, that's none of my business. Do I have that correct?
yes.
Okay. Now,
And
my question for you is then, how can it not be none of your business if you are a woman of faith? How can it not be none of your business if you have children and people are doing wrong things and living, you know, you know, not to your moral ethics? Why would you? Why wouldn't you want to encourage people to do the right thing so you can raise kids in a good society where everyone is on, a good moral path and living righteously?
I think that what you said is correct. We should encourage people to do the morally right thing. I agree. I'm not even going to say
Biblically.
however,
Okay. So now my
but
question is, why don't you, if you know
I
that's
do. I don't know anybody who has had a termination. Um,
okay?
I know one person, and the pregnancy would have harmed the woman,
Okay.
and it was not a viable pregnancy as well.
So then my question is, if you know, like you wouldn't do it, but you don't know anyone around you that you ever had to advise like that, like you never had to do it, but you're on a platform and you go on Jubilee, which is a huge platform, and you go against the grain, like you're going against what you know is morally right. Do you agree with that? Are you aware that you are going against what you know is morally right publicly?
Yeah, I do. And like I said, I know that my worldview has a lot of contradictions. Ultimately, I don't think that it is my job. All I can do is spread the word of God. If people do not choose to listen, that is up to them. I
But I
do,
think that you're spreading the opposite of the word of God. You just admitted it. You just admitted it just a second ago. Like you said that you know that you are going against what you truly know is right, and you're speaking about it publicly, meaning that you know something is right on this hand, right? But you're going to go against it publicly. That's the opposite of, standing on 10 toes down and standing for what you know is right. So if you're going against it, it's like a full moral contradiction. My question is, try to answer this. Like, why are you going against it?
I am going against it
Yeah.
because I don't think that I can, at the end of the day, no matter how hard I try, push my faith onto others.
Wait,
And
stop it there. Stop it there. Did someone push their faith onto you?
no,
Was your family Catholic?
yes,
Okay, so stop it there. Your family pushed their faith onto you, right? So influence creates thinking, thinking creates behavior. Your family was influenced to have a faith, so then they're thinking and then they behave to push their faith onto you. So you're saying that you think it's impossible for you to influence another human being to have your same worldview, well, your same moral ethics. You're saying that it's impossible. I'm letting you know that it isn't impossible because your parents pushed it on you. So therefore, you can push it on someone else. And it's not to say that. So Paul has, I can't remember the verse, but Paul says something in the lines of, to take a position, like if you want to get a message across, you could take a position where you're not causing like a complete uproar, right? So it's ways of communicating where you can still get a message across, where you don't have to be, let's say, not aggressive, not insubordinate. What's one of the words that I'm thinking of? But like pretty much Paul is saying that you can get your message across in many ways and influence people by not causing conflict. Also, there's other many verses in the Bible that says that, hey, forget the conflict. We got to stand on what's true. If it's going to be conflict or not, like, why would we let the degenerates win and their worldview take over when we can fight and be just as influential and try to combat their worldview with our righteous worldview? Like, why don't you think that way about it?
Well, okay, sorry. I just have a question for you then.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you think that people who have been going about or not in an aggressive manner? Because personally, I've driven by Planned Parenthoods where people are screaming in people's faces, even if they're not going to get a termination. They don't know. And to me, if anything, that pushes people away from faith. That makes people scared of God and scared that that is why I
Okay,
feel
wait, did
so
you ask me
strongly.
a question? I could answer that
Oh,
the
sorry. Yeah.
question.
So then
Okay.
do you think it has been do you think that it has been going on or that pro-life individuals have been handling this in a non-aggressive way?
So I didn't say aggressive, like to cause an uproar. So Paul states in the Bible that there's certain way to speak about things to not cause an uproar. So there's certain way to pass along a message to not cause an uproar. But then there's many passages in the Bible, and even Jesus flipped over the table. It's to cause an uproar because things were so crazy. So it's like, if you take both of the passages, it means there's a certain time and a place to cause an uproar. And I think that women terminating unborn children is the perfect time and place to cause an uproar.
But then when they're harassing people who are not getting terminations,
Well, what do you consider harassment?
sticking signs in your face, yelling at you, following you, saying that you're going to go to hell, I think that when
Well, under your worldview and my worldview, I would say that that's right. Wouldn't you say that that's right? That they're gonna go to hell?
That I'm not sure. I don't think I can read the Bible and I can try to guess what's going to happen, but as have said before, that God is the ultimate judge. God truly knows what is going on inside a person's heart and a person's mind, and I and and that is why I to speak on that,
You
because
you you cut out
at
you
the end
cut
of
out
the day,
a second there. You heard me?
so sorry.
Your it's okay. Your bad connection just happened on your end. Repeat that again, just like the last two sentences.
Um yeah, sorry. I totally lost my train of thought.
You were
Let me think.
no, you're good.
I,
You were saying that God.
oh yeah. I know that God is a loving being.
Okay.
I know that he's loving. I know that he's forgiving. But so then would you say if somebody were to get a termination and then go and find God and repent, do you think they would still go to hell?
No, no. So repentance is a different thing, right? So like think about it. It's like a fool. I'm going to try to say this concisely and as accurately as possible because you have a worldview that is very contradictory. Um, so on one hand, yes, you on one hand you say that you are not going to go against the grain and you are not going to speak the gospel and push forth your righteous morals on others, meaning that you're going to put a blind eye to whatever degenerate behavior other people are doing or whatever sinful behavior other people are doing, and you're going to let them do whatever they want. Then on the opposite hand, you say that, well, if they do these things, and if they do find Christ and repent in the name of Jesus, then they do go to heaven. I believe that is true. So if a woman does terminate her unborn child and later in her life she actually finds God and she repents and everything, I do think that there is a place for her in heaven. But my question for you is, since me and you know that, what's the best way to get those women to find God and to repent? The best way to do that is by speaking the truth, by going against the grain, by saying, hey, termination of unborn children is the wrong thing to do. It's bad. You get what I'm saying? Like, if your worldview didn't contradict yourself, you would probably be one of those Christians on the side of the termination clinic out there like, hey, if you do this, you're going to hell. Like, that's what you should do. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only way. Like, influence creates thinking, thinking creates behavior. You should be trying to influence people in a moral, righteous way. Instead of what you're doing, you're saying, well, they have different morals than me. They have a different way of living. I'm just going to say, hey, what you're doing, even though I know that it's right, even though I know that it's wrong, still go head on and continue to do it. Actually, I'm pro termination of unborn children. Like, you're actually speaking evil, not speaking holiness. Does that make sense?
No, and I see what you're saying, but I think that when you stand outside a termination clinic or a Planned Parenthood or whatever, and you're yelling, you're going to go to hell, you're going to do this, why would that bring people closer to the faith? What if we say, we can help you? We can
Okay,
make this easier on
quick
you.
question for you. Do you think it's better to do that or to do nothing?
I think it's better if it is in a supportive way, because so many of these women do not think that they have support systems. I think that looking at numbers, the reason I think that termination should be legal is because there appears to be more deaths when it is not legal. And that is not what I want. However, I think
Yeah,
with it,
that's a fallacy. That I don't believe that, and stats on it, which I've shown some, I've seen some of those stats. It is untrue. So
Well, with
most
an
states, I'm sorry, go ahead.
with an unsafe termination, 200 or more women are likely to die than out of 100,000 terminations, whereas safe terminations, it is less than 1%. And that is from the World Health Organization.
Yeah. So I get that. But what I'm saying is it's not illegal at all in America. Every state it's legal in. So we have what is it? 18 states you can terminate the child up to 6 weeks. 12 to 15 weeks is 3 states. 18 to 22 weeks is 4 states. 24 weeks or later is 18 states, and 8 of those states don't have a limit. For example, in Maryland, you can. It was an example where it was a termination of a baby that was 34 weeks. That was a kid. That's a child.
Are we positive that this was an induced termination, or?
Yes.
It was induced.
Yeah, I can actually. It's a TikTok on it. I can actually, if it was safe for YouTube, I would pull it up and show you in the live audience, but I can't. But yeah, it went crazy viral just like last week. And they actually showed that it was a full baby. The baby was healthy too. Baby was, had enough weight on him and everything. And how they terminated that baby was crazy insane. So the facts is that in America, overall, termination of unborn children is legal. Just there's different terms on it, right? In my worldview, right, it would be illegal only for one exception, that if the mother's life is in jeopardy, then I think you should grant the right for the woman to make that decision because it's her life versus the baby's life. All other exceptions, which happens rarely, which is rape, incest, and all of these other things, these rarely happen. These are exceptions to the rule. So with these people that are not pro-life, they're literally, it's like nonsensical. Think about this, right? This will probably help you out with critically thinking. Malls. When you go to a mall, you see 400 regular parking spots and 20, maybe 30 handicap parking spots, right? The reason why there's less handicap parking spots is because there's less handicapped people, right? Imagine if the mall made the rule the exception. There would be 400 handicap parking spots where no one could park in. If they do park in those handicap parking spots, they'll be fined or their car would be towed. And then there's only 20 to 30 regular parking spots. That's the world flipped upside down. That causes chaos. That causes confusion. That causes disruption. And the people that are not pro-life, they believe in termination of unborn children. It's nonsensical. It's like you're making the exception the rule. The only reason why you want women to have the right to terminate their children is because you're thinking about all these bad things that rarely happen. You get what I'm saying? So you're making the exception the rule where the world is flipped upside down. This is why currently in the Western countries, we're underpopulated. In order for us, we're literally having, we're in a population deficit. This is why we got to bring in immigrants. There's so many other Western countries that they rely on immigrants. You know what I'm saying? Because termination of unborn children is legal, and also, LGBTQ is legal. That's the same sex can't have babies. So, one, you're terminating the children, and then 2, you're promoting same-sex relationships where children don't come for that. So, in order to maintain your infrastructure and your society, you need to look elsewhere. And the crazy thing is, Most of these people that come into the Western nations, they're they believe in, they have some theology type of background. They believe in God. They're usually the three Abrahamic faiths. You know what I'm saying? So they come here and they're creating more babies than we are. So it's like the world is backwards. Does that make sense?
So are you saying that immigrants have more terminations than?
No, I'm saying that in Western countries, some countries already are relying on immigrants to come in because in those countries, they're not having enough babies. Currently in America, if we stopped all immigration, but we still maintain the current rate of termination of children, America in 100 years will be done. It will be done, meaning that we wouldn't have enough people to maintain our infrastructure. Make sense? We wouldn't have enough people in our army. People would just grow old and grow out. Most of the people in our military are young, military age males. So you got to think about it. If people aren't having babies, the world is ending. It's over.
But there's still always going to be people that will have and want children. Every child has a right and
correct, but the rate is so low. Like influence creates thinking, thinking creates behavior. So if we are influencing a population of people to say, no, termination of babies are a good thing, obviously they're incentivized to make poor decisions, right? Like all of these contraceptives are incentivizing women and men to be promiscuous. More women than there are men, right? The woman says, oh, I could take a plan B. Oh, I can terminate my baby. This is incentivizing me to sleep around and be promiscuous and not put as much stake in the man that I'm choosing to sleep with, right? Like it takes away the consequences of the woman. And anytime a nation takes away the consequences of a woman, the world becomes more feminized. And we know what happened in Rome. We know what happened in all of these other countries where history kind of shows that when a nation becomes more feminized and they don't prioritize security, then the downfall of the nation starts to happen. Like, what are men there for? Masculine men. Masculine men is in a nation to protect and to provide, right? But if these masculine men are more feminine because influence creates thinking, thinking creates behavior, so they've adopted their mother's mindset, they've adopted the LGBTQ mindset, well, why should I have courage to fight in this war? Why should I have courage to stop people from doing this? You need masculinity. You need strong masculine men to to uphold a good nation.
I don't necessarily see the connection between that and termination.
Okay, how
I
don't
think,
you?
huh?
How didn't you see? The connection was very simple. It was if people terminate the kids, population would go down. Then we need to bring in more people from other countries to keep us afloat, right? These people from other countries, well, they have different morals, different backgrounds, different everything. Immigration is fine and stuff like that, but it needs to be legal and it needs to be done the right way. So then that means that the people that are in power, pretty much I'm saying this, all of these people that has these secular worldviews and believes in termination of babies and believes in LGBTQ stuff, the people that have my mindset and encourage other people to have babies and to be and for a man to be strong and masculine and for a woman to be feminine, we're going to take over and give it 200 years. So the pendulum is going to shift. So either way, your worldview will die out.
Okay.
Do you agree with that or no?
my like worldview, like my point of view, like people, or just like
I'm saying
termination will lead to an overall decrease in population and a shift in the pendulum.
That's what I'm saying. If we just think far into the future, right? Your people that have your worldview and that is for termination of kids, the only way for them to keep the population afloat, they have to bring immigrants over. And normally immigrants, statistics show that immigrants, they normally come with they normally come here with their own culture, and their culture normally is rooted in some divine command. You don't get too many secular immigrants. Normally these immigrants come over from these second and third world countries. I mean, they're coming over, they believe in God. They coming over here because it's the land of opportunity, right? So what's ultimately is going to happen is those immigrants and their worldview of, since they don't believe in termination of unborn children, their worldview is going to take over. The people that believe in termination of babies, their population is going to decrease in due time. So I'm saying that the pendulum is going to shift no matter what.
Okay.
Because your worldview don't have babies. Your worldview doesn't really procreate. Your worldview is pro LGBTQ plus and pro termination of kids. You don't procreate. My worldview, we do procreate. So in due time, my worldview and people with my worldview will take over. Because people that have my worldview, well, they instill their moral beliefs into their kids. Your mother and your father instill their worldview into you, but you're going against your mother and father.
Okay,
well, you're going against what your mother and father instilled into you. Now, your mother and father, they could be, pro termination of kids. I'm not sure.
No, they are both pro-life. And so there you go. Everything that they brought me up in hasn't necessarily influenced. And at the end of the day, yes, I was brought up in the Catholic faith, but I chose to get confirmed. I was the one that chose it. And there was a time where I strayed away a little bit from the church, and I found my way back, not because of the words of my parents, but because I did.
So this just proves, right? What you just said just proves that the influence of LGBTQ plus and the pro termination of kids movement, their influence is so strong that it superseded the influence of your mother and father. This is why it's evil, and this is why people like me that do my content need to push the needle forward and go against that nonsense.
I think you're saying all of this under the assumption that my generation does not want to have children, and that's simply not true. There is not, like, nobody is like, I want to have children. I'm not saying that. And like, yes, there are some people. What about people who, and when you're talking about LGBT and all of that, so then if we want to stop termination, then there is a potential that there are LGBTQ couples that want to adopt these children, therefore making not getting a termination more appeasable of the idea of that child potentially getting adopted if the parent is not ready to take on that role. So
got you. So you're saying that LGBTQ plus is helpful because they can't have kids, so they're more likely to adopt since they can't have kids. I got it.
Well, then wouldn't that balance out?
You're saying wouldn't that balance out? Well, no, because the population of LGBTQ plus is so low. But let me go ahead and close out the Facebook live stream. Everyone on Facebook, come on over to YouTube. We're going to close down a Facebook live stream. I see y'all in here super chatting. I'm going to go ahead and get to y'all questions at the end of the discussion since we're kind of flowing. And now the topic is shifting to more of the rainbow flag community. We're going to go ahead and shut down the Facebook live stream now. 1 second. All right, we went ahead and shut down Facebook. So we are currently only live on YouTube now. All right, so you were saying that one of the pros of LGBTQ plus is that they are going to adopt children. So we can do both. We can be pro termination of unborn children, and your justification of that is that, well, people that don't have kids, we can be also pro of LGBTQ plus because it's same sex relationships where they can't have babies. So we can just go ahead and that would subsidize the termination, or that would subsidize the children that can go to another family. My my statement for that would be, well, yeah, I mean, LGBTQ plus people can definitely adopt children and stuff like that. With that, my question for you is, what do you think is best for the kids now? Do you think it's best for a kid to be raised in with two dads, or a mom and a dad?
But who knows if who knows if that child is even going to have both parents or one parent in their life. I think that
Well, no, I'm
if
saying
they're
that just regular heterosexual relationships can adopt children. Like LGBTQ plus isn't the only group that adopts.
no, for sure, but I think that people in heterosexual relationships most of the time will try to have children on their own. And if that doesn't work, then they'll maybe resort to IVF. And then if that doesn't work, maybe then they will consider adoption. But for people of the LGBTQ community, that is their primary choice.
That isn't their primary
Well, they
choice
could do
because,
surrogacy or
well, in
anything like
vitro,
that. Yeah.
so IVF. So I would say, if anything, I don't know the stats on it, but they have options. They don't have to go through the abortion tactic to get a child. They can use IVF. So, and also the LGBT community is so little that there's still more, way more heterosexual relationships adopting than there are LGBTQ plus relationships adopting.
But how
So
many families, like if so many families were looking to adopt, why are there still so many children in foster care? Why do a high percentage of children age out of foster care without being adopted? There is a very big issue with our foster care system. And for someone and we're for someone who decides they have an unwanted pregnancy and they decide not to terminate that pregnancy, so then is giving them that child to foster care better in your mind than potentially an LGBTQ couple that is financially well off, stable, and a happy couple?
yeah, because I think that that community is a mental illness. So influence creates thinking, thinking creates behavior. So I mean, if I had a choice, and if the adoption system had a choice, it would be best. It'll be best, of course, to give the kids to a couple where they can raise them. But the best couple would be a heterosexual couple, not a couple that indulges in filth.
Okay, and that's your opinion. And
Yeah, that's not your opinion. You said that you're a
I
woman
think
of
if a
faith.
child has two loving parents that are able to financially support and um, maintain the well-being, mental and physical well-being of that child, that is all that matters. To me, the most important thing is that a child deserves to be brought into the world with love. Children of unwanted pregnancies are more likely to experience and behavioral issues in their adolescence because there is that disconnection from their mother. And so I think that when I think about it, are we bringing children into this world to succeed, or are we bringing children into this world and they are failing and the system is failing them? And and again, we can go back to the whole suffering point where
Yeah,
suffering
I was gonna
happens.
say that you're speaking about a lot of, like, you're contradicting yourself, and it is much different when I'm having this debate with someone that is secular and they don't believe in God and don't have any faith, because it's like, okay, we stay on one path, but you take a path and then you go right off that path, right? So it's like, it's not difficult to speak to you, but it's like, I have to speak about this and then explain and then say, hey, don't you know that is right? And then you're like, oh, well, yeah, that's right. Well, why do you want to do it? Well, because I just, I just don't want to, I just want to, right? You really don't have, you've never, real quick, you've never actually gave me a reason to why you know something is wrong, but you still, and you still promote it. Like, you know something is wrong, but you still promote it.
But I wouldn't say that I promote it. I would say that
But,
I think
okay.
that the choice is essential. The choice should be there. Does that mean that people should use that choice as birth control? Does that mean people should use that choice to take advantage of it? No. But I think that choice needs to be there. But
Okay. So got it. So choice supersedes God and holiness. This is the same thing. It's funny because you're prioritizing choice over what God said. I know a woman that did the same thing. Her name was Eve. She bit from the apple because she had a choice to do it instead of obeying what God said. You get what I'm saying? So it's like you are literally adopting the spirit of Eve. Does that make sense?
yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know if I accept it, but
I mean, it was an analogy, but I think it mapped on pretty good because you're pretty much saying that, okay, all right, you want people to have the choice to pretty much do these things. The topic is LGBTQ plus, the rights of LGBTQ plus, and also the rights of women to terminate their unborn children. And you are pro all of this, meaning that you want people to have this choice. Now, I'm stating that my question is, why does choice supersede what you know to be right? Like, you are against LGBTQ. You're not a lesbian or anything. You are, and you would never partake. Would you ever partake in any of that type of sexuality?
uh no. I don't know.
Okay,
That's
got
kind
it.
of
So, okay, cool. So, like, you won't partake in it yourself because it isn't in your moral, ethical, baseline. So, but you are pro other people accepting that filth and accepting the termination of unborn children because, once again, your justification for people to terminate unborn children is their body, their choice. They should have bodily autonomy. That's pretty much your justification. Your justification of LGBTQ plus is, well, they have the ability to self-identify and indulge in any sexual filth that they want. It's their choice, right? Therefore, but there's God. God put a tree. God gave people choice, right? So God created Adam and Eve. This is what I'm saying. God created Adam and Eve, and he said, hey, I love you, so I'm going to give you choice. If I don't give you choice, you're a robot. If I don't give you free will, you're a robot. I don't want to create a robot. I want to create a being that has choice, but accepts me despite choice. So Eve, what she did was bite the apple from the tree. She chose choice over God. You currently are choosing what you just said, the words that came out of your mouth. You are pro-choice. You want people to choose rather than accept God, right? So choose the negligence, choose the degeneracy, choose the filth. It's not like choosing something good. Like, God gave us choices. Like, okay, you got the apple, sin forever, or you got me. That's choice. Choose me. And I'm telling you, why wouldn't you encourage people to choose that path instead of choosing the path of damnation?
But that's what I'm saying. I would encourage somebody.
So why don't you do it right now? Like we got a podcast. It's like, a lot of people watching. Why don't you be like, yo, listen, I am pro. I am, pro-life, and I am not for, same-sex marriages and all of this things that goes against the Bible. I am for these other things. You're not doing that. You're saying that, well, I wouldn't do those things that other people are doing, but I'm still for whatever they're doing instead of being for God.
Honestly, I'm gonna give you that.
Okay.
And that's my personal choice. And um, you have your right to feel that way about it, but I'm not gonna deny that. So I
Okay. Fair
will
enough.
I'll give that to you for sure. I'm not gonna deny that. And that's just the way I go about things. And that might be incorrect. And obviously to you it is incorrect. Um, but to me that's just how I live my life, and that's how I have found peace and comfort within my life.
Got it. Question for you. What is a man?
Okay. I think that okay, a man or a male.
A man.
I think that if we're talking about men or women, that doesn't particularly pertain to the sex. That can be a multitude of different definitions. If you line up 5 men and ask what is a man, you're gonna get 5 different answers.
Okay. So you are separating man from male. And why did you do that? Why did you
Because male
separate
is a
man from
sex,
male?
and I think that man and woman are more of defining terms to somebody.
Okay. So you said that you think it's defining terms to people. Okay. Do you know the person that came up with the word gender? Because I think that you are. So, I mean, do you believe in multiple genders or do you believe in two genders?
Well, I would say I believe in 2 genders, but I also recognize that some people don't identify as a gender at all. But then wouldn't that just technically like not be its own gender?
Yeah. Okay. So, and here's what I'm trying to reconcile here is how can you in the like the Bible didn't say male. The Bible didn't say female. The Bible said man and woman, right? Scientifically, we're a male XY chromosome, a woman has XX. So why are you trying to conform to these noun social norms of changing definitions of words?
I think that as time goes on, we've changed definitions of words. We've done that from beyond, like from as time goes on. We've deemed words inappropriate as time goes on. We've deemed words more correct as life goes on. And so for me, I prefer to live a life of love and acceptance and tolerance. And I
Okay.
do believe that, yes, there are biological male and female, and that's that, right? Scientifically. But you also have to take into account genetic mutations, XXY, I think that's Turner syndrome, or
Yeah, those are exceptions.
you think
Exceptions
those are
don't make the
exceptions? Or
rule.
what about an intersex person that has,
That's an exception.
so if they have both sex
That
organs and
happens
both
zero
don't
zero
work
point one
properly,
percent
then
of the
what would
time.
you hmm?
I said those exceptions are like actual exceptions. Like those are rare scenarios that happen like 0.1% of the time.
But
Like
they exist,
those are
right? Like,
birth defects. They still happen, right? The birth defects happen all the time. Like this is what I'm trying to say. Like you're having a lot of like logical fallacies, even though there's are exceptions. Like bad things happen. I know women just happen. Women naturally, their natural state is very accepting of things, and it can be a beautiful time. But then there's other times it can be very cruel, what's the word? Negative and bad for themselves and for society for being so accepting and tolerant of things that we know to be like the truth. So John Money, he created these terms gender. And I don't believe in gender. Gender is just personalities. That's what I believe gender is. And even the way John Money explained it in 1921, he created this term, and it became really popular in the 1960s. In the 1960s, it became other people popularized it and became really popular in the 1960s. So all throughout world history, it's two sexes, and it's what we call gender, meaning the personalities of these sexes follows the gender, meaning that men normally have characteristic traits and personalities that follow a male, man and male. Women normally have characteristic traits and personalities that follows female, right? But John Money and the people that try to popularize these gender identities, they're just different personality traits. Personality traits are infinite. Like, how many people you meet that got, different personality traits? They may be, everyone is unique. Think about it. Like, there's so many different type of personality traits, and there's so many different type of things that people are into, good and bad. So when we're speaking about a man and a woman, and they're not just interchangeable widgets, like you can't change them. A man can't be a woman and a woman can't be a man. You can't interchange them. Since the beginning of time, it's been like this. 6,000 years in the Bible, a man is a man, a woman is a woman. Why would you listen to someone that came up with these terms that's a non-believer too? Because since you are a believer, but you're going to listen to a non-believer, you're going to listen to their ideologies and let the non-believer influence you and impact your worldview. Why would you listen to that nonsense instead of listening to God, where there's man and woman, Adam and Eve? There's nothing else. There's multiple personalities and infinite personalities, but only two genders, male and female, men and women. That's it. Make sense?
No, I understand. Well, first, I'm sorry, I had a whole thing of what I was gonna say, and
I'm sorry, I went on a rant there.
No, you're totally okay.
I do have
that too.
I do have a question for you if you don't have anything.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so all right, a little bit on the LGBTQ stuff a little bit, because I kind of want to understand your worldview too. You say that you are accepting of this because all it is just sex. That's all it is. Like
you don't think it has anything to do with love?
It's just sex. It's sex. Like, thinking that it's love is nonsensical. You know what love is? Love is doing things despite how I feel. I love you despite how I feel. God tells me to love all people.
Love.
So I don't believe anything is unconditional, but I mean the nature of love itself. Like, if I love someone, true love is feelings go up and down. Feelings are fleeting. Happiness is fleeting. Sadness is fleeting. All of these are emotions. It's fleeting. It goes up and down. So love is treating someone despite how you feel. So you may feel down, you may feel negative, but you're going to walk into that office and still greet your boss or your coworkers in a nice way. You know what I mean? That's love. So I'm not accepting and being intolerant of people's filthy and degenerate behavior. That doesn't mean that you don't love them. I think that you love them more if you express the truth to these people and say, hey, there's only two genders, male and female, man and woman. Like, that's what it is. All these gender identities and stuff like that, you can identify as whatever you want. That's just a personality trait. If you want to be a weirdo, go ahead and be a weirdo. There's many weirdos out there, right? We all got some weird friends. They may not be LGBTQ plus, but they still weird. How many weird guys come up and talk to you? You out at the bar, they approach you. Dudes be weird. You feel me?
Yeah.
So, and you get so many different type of personalities of guys approaching you, and it's like, ill, no, ill, no. They're weird. Now, you are intolerant. The thing is, the contradiction is this, right? You are very intolerant of men that you're not attracted to. But why aren't you intolerant of this filth that this community does instead of being accepting to it? Like, it's
Well,
not
you
to
just
say
said
that
that I'm intolerant to people that I'm not attracted to.
you are intolerant to it because you reject them.
Okay, fair, but that doesn't mean like
So
I don't
since you
accept them as
reject,
a human. I don't
we're not saying
respect
that.
what they did to come up to me, if especially if it was in a respectful way. Um,
I'm not
I
saying that. I'm saying, let me just state it here. I'm not saying that I don't accept people in that rainbow community as humans. No, I do accept them as humans. And I hope that they find God, right? I love them all. There's no hate at all. There's no, what is it? Homophobia or anything like that. There's none of that going on. I love them. You know what's crazy? I probably love those people more than people that are doing real good, is because like I feel bad for them. It's like, I really want you to overcome this filthy behavior. You know what I mean? It's like the basketball coach that knows that that player is real good, but they're like failing in school and stuff like that. Or you know, you get what I'm saying, or not really focusing. That basketball coach is like, nah, like, listen, I love you. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you overcome these struggles that you're dealing with. And so to push forward. And that's exactly what I am. The basketball coach, like, listen, I know you're failing right now. I know you're in a fallen state. I know your soul is in a fallen state and it's away from God, separated from God. But I love you so much that I have to speak the truth to you. I'm not going to indulge in your delusion and say that a man can be a woman and we're just all interchangeable widgets. I'm going to say, hey, no, here's the right way to think. And here's the right path to success and the path to righteousness and the path to God. You get what I'm saying? So I'm not just going to tolerate it. That's what I'm saying. And I think that just like what I'm trying to say is, just like you don't tolerate those guys that walk up to you, that they just don't qualify for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not into them. You don't tolerate it because you reject them. I don't tolerate people in that group, in that movement. I reject them. It's not saying that I don't love them. I just reject what they do. Just like the guy, if he approaches you the wrong way saying something, but just like, no, yeah, why'd you say that? Or why'd you do that? You're intolerant. You reject them. Those people in the other community, they do this filth, same sex and all of this stuff. And you promote this, you walk around and like, no, I'm intolerant of that. I'm going to reject them. And I think it is okay to reject people, just like I think I'm justified to reject the LGBT community, just like you reject all them dudes in your DMs.
Well, I think there's a little bit, well, in that case, right, there's a little bit,
I got a point there.
Huh?
I said, that's a point there. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, absolutely. And there is, I want to say, like, no matter, like, I mean, like, if I've come off aggressive in any way, like, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're good.
But I also just want to say, like, I truly applaud you for a lot of the things that you said, whether I agree with them or not. I am a big, like, believer in, like, loving everybody, because that's what God preaches. So
why don't you love those guys that you reject when they approach you? And
I love them as humans. That doesn't mean I love them romantically.
Okay, well. Now here's what I'm speaking about. That's fine that you don't love them romantically, but since you don't love them romantically and you don't want to be with them, what instead you do is you are intolerant of them and you reject them, meaning that you say, no, nah, I'm good. I have a boyfriend. Maybe you make up a lie or whatever you do to reject them. And I'm saying the same way you reject guys that don't qualify for you, I reject people in the rainbow flag community because I'm intolerant of them, just like you're intolerant of certain guys that approach you. I'm
No, and I
intolerant.
I absolutely see what you're saying. I
That's all
absolutely
I'm
see what
saying.
you're saying,
So,
and that's what and that's kind of what I was saying too. I applaud you for the way you worded everything and your I am a big believer that people don't necessarily have to accept everything, but the fact that you live a life by love, even if you don't accept a certain lifestyle or a certain choice, I respect that. Um, and I just want to say that. I just want to make that very clear. I think that was like a very amazing thing that you just said.
okay,
Um,
so you keep talking about acceptance. I got a question for you. So the plus is, I'll actually bring it up here real quick. Let me read it, just so the audience knows what I'm speaking about, and I'm not, speaking about their community incorrectly. All right, so LGBTQ plus is an umbrella term that describes a range of sexual orientations and gender identities. L, lesbian, G, gay, B, bisexual, T, transgender, transformers, and Q, queer. The plus represents other identities that may not fit into the above categories, right? So you know that, and that's what LGBTQ, that's what the plus encompasses. Every other sexual orientation or gender identity. My question for you is, since you are pro LGBTQ plus rights, the plus, there's people that have a sexual orientation for minors. Are you in tolerance of that? Like, are you okay? Do you accept that? Or are you intolerant of it?
Absolutely not, but that's a completely different thing.
Wait.
Minors, there is a
How's that a
complete
completely
difference
different
between
thing?
because if I love a woman, do you think loving a woman that is my age is just as bad as me loving a child who can't,
Uh,
who
it
doesn't?
is. I'll answer your question. Your question was, do you think a woman having sexual intercourse with another woman is just as bad as doing something with a minor? I would say that it's not just as bad. No, I can differentiate the two, right? That's not my question though. My question is, if you are pro LGBTQ plus, which you said that you are, the plus encompasses all other sexual orientations and gender identities. I'm telling you, there are people that have sexual orientations to be attracted to minors.
But that's not
So
a sexual orientation. That's just somebody who is sick in the mind. Somebody who is an adult that wants to participate in sexual activity with a minor is absolutely just disgusting. That is,
I agree.
and I think that is absolutely for like on the other side of the spectrum between loving someone
Disgusting.
of the same
Got
sex.
it. So, question for you. Since you are a woman of faith, the Bible talks about sodomy. The Bible compares sodomy to bestiality, right? I would say that someone having intercourse with a child or having intercourse with a animal, I would say that's comparable. I would say that's like, yeah, that's like equal. That's like right there. I may even give the child a little bit more because a human child is conscious, like human conscious and human awareness, a conscientious being. So I would still say the child is maybe a little bit more worse than the animal because the animal isn't a conscientious being. So, but with that being said, since you know that homosexuality is compared to bestiality, why are you in acceptance for that, but you're not in acceptance for people that have attractions for children?
I just think there is
So that's
such
where you draw the line, you're saying.
yeah, that is absolutely there
And
are
okay, go ahead.
sorry, there are certain parts of the LGBT community that I think have crossed the line, but I don't think that is the majority of the community. I
Oh,
would
okay. Question
never.
for you then. What? Oh, so the only part that you think crossed the line is when they start, get into the sexual attractions for kids and stuff.
I just wouldn't consider that like a sexuality. Like that is.
Well, how wouldn't you consider it a sexuality? Like, okay, you got guys that are, titty guys, guys that are butt guys, a heterosexual guy, guys are more attracted to, butts than there are breast, right? So every guy has his preference. So sexuality is it's a sexual it's a sexual orientation is what you're attracted to. So men can be attracted to and women can be attracted to kids. I mean, we hear all the time. I just seen something on the internet last week where a woman, a teacher, she did something with a 16-year-old. It was crazy. And then, the chat, the comments was like, oh, homie must have been going it. Like the chat was going crazy. But anyways, that's something else. But all I'm saying is, how can you accept one thing that is filth, but you don't accept another thing that is filth? You're saying that, and I agree, all the things that you're saying with an adult person having an attraction for a minor or doing something with a minor, that's totally filthy. It's disgusting. It's the worst thing. But how can't you see a man having anal sex with another man as filth? Like that is filthy. How can't you see that two same-sex couples doing things is unnatural and it doesn't lead to it? It's unnatural because it doesn't lead to birth. So they're doing a sexual act that doesn't lead to procreation. So one, it's against your meta ethics, and two, like your meta ethics and your normative ethics both clash. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know
No,
what
yeah.
meta means? Meta ethics.
No, yeah, sorry. I was just thinking of like I was just thinking based off of everything you're saying. Um I think I guess honestly I don't consider it filth. And again, probably wrong. Wrong according to my faith. That's okay. I accept that. Um because I just
Okay.
do not think that bestiality and having intercourse with a minor is even remotely comparable to two consenting adults. I just don't think
Yeah.
that that is comparable.
Uh.
Whether you think
But
they're
but
both
but the
filth,
Bible says. You get what I'm saying? Like you're saying that you don't think these things, but therefore you say that you are Catholic and you are a woman of faith. So your morals is here, but then what you've been influenced and socially constructed to think is here. So they're like fighting against one another. That's why I said your meta ethics and your normative ethics are at a clash right now. Because the Bible says that sodomy, homosexuality, well, it says sodomy is comparable to bestiality. And it's talking about all types. It's talking about incest. It's talking about all of them. So sodomy is all of those things. You know what else is sodomy? Sodomy is oral.
yeah.
Oral sex. Yeah. You have guys eat your toe? You ever gave guys head? That's sodomy. You don't
Okay.
have to answer that, but I'm just saying if you've ever done it, you've indulged in some sodomy. Now,
So
I could
then
say
so
if it's
then
a scale, that's a lower end of the scale, but I mean, it's still all the same. That's what God
so
says.
hypothetically you would consider heterosexual um couples who have participated in sodomy on the same level as people in the LGBTQ community.
It's filthy. No,
So
no,
you're just
no, no,
against all
no,
sodomy
no,
in general.
no, no, no. I said it's levels to it. Sodomy in general is comparable to bestiality. That's what the Bible says. But there are still levels to these things. And I said that I wouldn't actually rate two heterosexual couples doing something fellatio on one another. I wouldn't rate that the same as same sex couples doing something together. You get what I'm saying? I also wouldn't rate the it's still sinful. All of it is sin. That's the thing that the Bible is saying. It's all sin. But what I'm saying is, if you are, how can your worldview be intolerant of saying of an adult having an attraction for a minor, but you are not intolerant of an adult doing bestiality things, messing with animals, or having same-sex relationships?
Well, I am intolerant of bestiality.
Okay, so that's the other. Okay, so you are intolerant of bestiality,
Yeah,
and you
no, I
are
do not support
intolerant.
that in any way, shape, or
Got
form.
it. And you are intolerant of people doing things with minors. Got it. Me too. I'm intolerant with all of that, but I'm also intolerant with same-sex relationships. And I want to know, in your worldview, like, don't you just feel like you're like fighting, like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place?
I always think back to just the fact that we are all sinners. Like, we are all sinners and we all do our best to repent. And yes, we can encourage people to repent. I don't know, because then you, where do you draw the line, right? Like, if somebody experiences a same-sex attraction but then doesn't act on it, is that still sinful? Do you think it's only sinful if you act on it?
So if you have a same-sex attraction and you never act on it, you are going to heaven. You get what I'm saying?
No, of
Going to
course.
heaven.
So it's
People,
more whether if
so
people act on it.
of course, how many times you've ever, maybe not you, but in general, most people may be in a relationship or at a job and they're like, man, I want to kill my boss. I just hope, like, they have intentions or of wanting to do something, but they don't act on those things. That's still righteous behavior, right? Because God knows your heart, right? What you act on usually is your heart. In most cases is your heart. In most cases, what you act on, like, I mean, you put influence creates thinking, thinking creates behavior. So yeah, a person that is attracted to the same sex, but he or she never indulges in it, I mean, that's totally fine. Guess what? An analogy would be, to even make it make more sense to you, would be a person that, they always inside, and not even that. They always wanted to do, let's say, not, I can't use that analogy. The only other analogy I would use to it, so it makes sense, I kind of already used it because it just lands perfectly. We have People may have the want to kill someone, but they choose not to, right? So I think that analogy kind of fits perfect with it. A person that may be attracted to the same sex, they may be attracted, but they choose not to. That's still a righteous person. So even though we feel certain things, we should act despite how we feel if those feelings aren't righteous.
But do you really feel that same-sex interaction is on the same level as murder?
I didn't say that. That was an
Well, when you use
analogy.
that analogy, it almost comes off as
Yeah, no,
these are
that was not even, that was more of an example to use. Well, really, actually, it was an analogy to show the difference between that you can want to do something that's bad, but you still choose not to do said bad thing, right? That's all it was, an analogy to. I don't think that is comparable. Taking a life is not comparable to uh, um, same sex relationships. I think it is a difference.
okay. So then here's my question for you. If Okay, so just like hypothetically, if a same sex someone comes out to you as gay or lesbian or anything, right? And you tell them that you spread the word of God, right? You say this is a sin. This is like not okay, and they don't listen, then what would you do? That I'm genuinely curious
What would I do? Okay. And I was just thinking while you were speaking too, I'll answer that question in a second. To think about it even further, when we're speaking about murder and we're speaking about same-sex marriages, I would actually say, if I'm thinking about it further, I would actually say that, nah, it's the same sin. And it is actually on the same level. The reason being is they can't procreate if you're in a same-sex marriage, so you can't procreate. You're not doing you're taking away potential life that you could have. And then the murder, he took away the flourishing of a life. So it's like, yeah, both evil and both still a sin. 100 completely. That's
But
what I
what
think.
about, okay, but like, do you take, like, what if you take into account that even if it's just, even if you believe that like same-sex interaction is lust, right? I believe
Uh-huh.
it's love. Do you think, I truly feel that oftentimes this same-sex interaction is done in love, whereas murder is done in hate. So how is that the same thing?
Well, you could kill someone if you can kill someone in love. What do you mean? I love my family and my kids, so if someone tries to intrude, I will kill out of love. I will murder out of love. Make sense?
Yeah, but that's an act of self-defense, right? That's an act of protection. If you are just murdering, right? Like you are just choosing to end somebody's life, that's typically done out of hate.
Okay. Well, if you believe that, here's another contradiction that you're just making. So you believe that all women that terminate their unborn children do it out of hate.
That's a fair point. But I don't I
Gotcha. That's a good
and
one.
I and I have previously stated that I think it's murder. I'm iffy on that. I'm really rethinking that and everything. So I'm gonna you got me there. So
Yep. 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 And
so
and, and this is what I'm saying. It's I'm happy that you came on, Juliana, and you're open to have these discussions. I think it's cool. You know, I think the one of the things is that you actually are aware of the contradictions, and then you even I think when it was your time to speak and you're open and you even admitted that you kind of changed your view on the judging part. Like we should judge righteously. So no hate on my end. I think that since you're open to you know speaking about things and going on these platforms and having debates, hopefully in due time, you'll come around and you'll be on team God.
fair enough. No, I really do appreciate you having me here. I think that politics nowadays are so um they really separate people, and I think that there's a lot of value in just being able to listen and talk and debate. So I also appreciate you having like a very respectful debate and conversation with me.
For sure. If you have any friends that have your belief systems, let me know. Hit up my team. We'll bring them on too.
I can
Um,
ask. I can definitely ask.
yep. Ask around. But okay. So I think we pretty much summed it up here with our worldviews. Unless you have any other questions for me that you want me to answer.
No, I think I have a pretty clear idea.
Okay, cool. I think we pretty much summed up the debate chat. We're going to go ahead and get to y'all super chats. Are you okay with staying for the super chats? I'm not sure. I haven't even been reading because we just been going in the conversation.
Yeah.
But are
Yeah,
you
no,
okay
of course.
with
I'm
staying
good
for
to
them? It could be some questions for you.
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so we got Dante. Welcome to the gang, Dante. Welcome to the gang. He joined the membership. We got most hated sends him $5. Appreciate the support. We got we got Kenya. Ali, welcome to Mob Ties. Hey man, you locked in, bro. You family now. That's the $25 tier. Appreciate you. We got Grounded Heights sends in $20. Finally caught you live, man. Keep doing the Lord's work. I would love for you to collab with Andrew Wilson. I think there are beautiful opportunities there. Respect to Juliana for stepping to the plate. Cool. Yeah, man. I actually did a podcast with Andrew Wilson. I met him when I was in Vegas, and we did Access Vegas podcast with Rolo Tomasi and Michael Sartain. So I met him, man. He's a cool dude. We had not really a disagreement, maybe a misunderstanding on that podcast, but I think it was pretty much just me and him going against the other girls. But our world views is fairly similar. And we actually did speak about joining up and doing a debate together, debating against other people. So I gotta hit him up, man. He's a cool dude when I met him that time. So I'm sure something good can come out of it. We got Quentin Mitchell sends in $5. If society normalizes unethical behavior such as same-sex relationships and eradicating unborns, what stop one from normalizing other bad acts? Okay, that's a good question. So he's pretty much saying, like, what's going to stop someone from normalizing other bad acts? If they're normalizing these unethical behaviors, what's going to, like, and you're pro these unethical bad behaviors, what's going to stop people in the future from normalizing other bad acts like, SA or, let's say, attraction for minors and things like that?
And that's a question for me, right?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think that there is no actual way. And I think that's a really great question. I don't think there is a way. If termination is illegal, it's still going to happen. Heroin's illegal, it's still going to happen. But I truly think that there are ways that we can educate to try to prevent the use of these things, or government intervention that potentially makes it more safe. And this is probably not, weed isn't even remotely similar to heroin. But by weed being legal, right, people can go to dispensaries and get weed that is safer.
Okay. And even with your response there, you have a very reactionary mindset, meaning that when things happen, you're looking to react to the bad, degenerate things that people did so you can support, right? So suffering happens. So let's try to react to the suffering instead of having a pro-action mindset where you're trying to stop things before it happens, right? So pro-life is stopping things before the bad stuff happens, meaning let's get rid of the contraceptives and all of these other things, and let's stand for pro-life, because if we prioritize that, right, if we are proactive, then we are going to encourage people to have safe sex, for women to not be promiscuous and choose a good, righteous man to have sex with. So you're not being promiscuous and sleeping around, but it's with guys that's unworthy. So of course you're like, God dang, do I really want his baby? Like, of course you're going to feel like that because you've made poor decisions already. So I think that we should be proactive as a society instead of reactive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So would you recommend doing that by
I will recommend that by influence creates thinking, thinking creates behavior. Spreading the gospel. We influence people on these good on these good meta ethics that we have. So they can be influenced to think morally and then to behave morally.
What do you think would be like a effective way to do that, right? Because through safe spaces.
Hey, I'll tell you this. The LGBTQ plus movement currently right now is after our kids. They're on Disney Plus. They're on all of these cartoon networks. They're everywhere. We shouldn't limit ourselves. People that believe in God and believe in something that's higher than themselves and have a moral backing that know right from wrong, we should influence in every way. every measurable way we can. So that's social media, that's every way, cartoons, that's whichever way we can influence people, it should be influence. If we aren't going to fight, right? Because influence creates all of this. So their influence power is superseding the Christians and the people of faith influence. It is, because you got to think about it. A lot of these churches now, they are pro LGBTQ plus. They are pro termination of unborn children. So that means that this influence of sinful behavior already infiltrated the churches. And you're a reflection of it because it's infiltrated your mind to be very accepting and tolerant of this.
Okay. So like, I guess what you're saying is the media particularly has, like, I've seen it as well, LGBTQ in children's cartoons, and that's creating a greater acceptance, whereas you think that it's kind of more of like a grooming thing, like we're being groomed growing up to accept it.
I don't know, like it's nurture versus nature to some extent, but like I don't know where you get in your mind that like the Bible and Christ and what he stands for was tolerant. He was extremely intolerant. Extremely intolerant. This is why he went against, Rome. You get what I'm saying? Like he went against them. Like he was going, you got to think about the gospel of Jesus Christ is like everything was like intolerant. Now, that's not to say that he wasn't kind and he wasn't, helping people that was helpless, right? That doesn't mean that he wasn't forgiving. No, he was all of those things. But one of the main things, he was intolerant. Like if you believe in Jesus Christ, that you believe that that Jesus is actually God. So think how intolerant God had to be. He was like, bruh, I'm so intolerant, all of this. I'm coming to earth and I'm setting it all straight. Like you got to think about it. Like he's intolerant to the fifth power. But anyways, let me get to the rest of the super chats. But good question. We got, let's see here. Deja Fitzpatrick sends in $10. Maryland allows termination up to 35 weeks and 6 days. I called the fact check and they did not ask for any explanation as to why. Juliana, do you think this is okay? Okay, so do you think that termination up to 35 weeks is okay?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so
I think there is a line to be drawn for sure.
What's your line?
I would say first trimester is after first trimester.
So 6 weeks. No, 6 weeks then. That's first trimester.
Yeah, okay, maybe 6 to 8.
Okay, well, yeah.
So halfway into the second trimester, yeah.
So, well, you're more on the Republican side then. Because remember, abortion isn't illegal. My bad. Termination of children isn't illegal in any states. They just have different terms, right? So the Republican states, their term is the most, I think it's, 18 states, their term is up to 6 weeks. And then after that, it's, let me pull up the graph, actually, I have it here. Yeah, so it's 18 states accepts termination. Well, their cutoff of termination of unborn children is 6 weeks. Then it's 12 to 15 states. Well, 12 to 15 weeks is only 3 states. 18 to 22 weeks, it's 4 states. And then 24 weeks or later is 18 states. So 24 weeks or later is competing with 6 weeks. And then there's 8 states that they don't define no limitation. In Maryland, Maryland isn't one of them, but it happened. But the states that has no defined limitations are New Jersey. Crazy. I live in New Jersey. uh, oh man, what's going on here? I mean, it's only 8 of them, but yeah. Anyways, so you are not in favor of the 35 weeks. Okay, let me get to the next super chat.
Absolutely not. Yeah,
We
no,
got
I
JB.
will skip that.
Okay, we got JB sends in $20. Cooley, amazing job here. To Juliana, my advice to you is to fully educate yourself further. If you are going to come on platforms to argue pro-choice, know the stats. You seem like a nice young lady, but willfully ignorant. Any comments on that?
You know what? I appreciate the feedback and the advice. I actually did come onto this, like I came on for a variety of reasons, but I really do want to practice my debating. So everything helps. And I
Hey,
did
you
have
got to
some
start
thoughts.
somewhere.
Yeah. So
How old are
everything
you,
helps.
Juliana?
I'm 19.
Oh, dag, you're only 19. Okay, yeah. Yeah, with that, so it's your first year in college then.
My second. I'm going into my second.
Okay, you're going into your second year. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I mean, if you want to come on and debate, you're doing the right thing if you want to just learn debating skills for sure. But I tend to debate, but I tend to why debate? I'd rather be on the side of right than to be on the side of let me just argue to argue. Like even because I don't know if you watch my podcast, maybe you didn't because my team reached out to you. But if you watch my podcast, I don't debate with these girls. I don't argue with these girls just to argue with them. I only argue things that I truly know to be right. At least I try my hardest. I mean, I'm human. I make mistakes too, but. All right, cool. We got, where we at? We got Cameo the Don says in $5. Male and man scientifically are different from morally, but both have to do with sex, correct? In both cases, we must speak generally. Intersex is intersex. Yeah, I feel what you're saying. Nick Merritt says in $10. We as humans sin every day, knowing and unknowing. That's why the Bible talks about praying and asking God for forgiveness every day, as we have all fallen short of the glory of God. That is true. Jay Hill sends in $10. Very good debate and conversation. It's great to see a back and forth that remain respectful. That is true. I appreciate you respecting the platform, Juliana.
Oh, I thank you. I appreciate you respecting me and my beliefs.
Listen, chat, she's so accepting. Why would she disrespect? She's so accepting. Juliana, you have the most accepting. You gonna be in hell with the devil. I accept it. Shorty gonna be burning in fire. Thank you, Jesus. All right, let me chill. We got JB sends in $50. Yo, appreciate the support, man. He's sending in the big bucks. According to her ideology, down the road, we can legalize murder and structure it for a debased thought process that somehow helps society, like the purge. It's illegal now, yet people still do it. That's what her thought process will lead to. Thoughts on that?
I can understand what they're saying for sure. I think that termination has been legal for about 40 years now. And and we haven't gotten to that point. So
wait, you said that termination of unborn children has been legal for 4 years?
40.
No. Oh, 40 years. Okay, got it.
Yeah, sorry, 40.
And you're saying we didn't get to the point where it's going to be a purge.
Yeah, so and now, even now, right, we've took a step back on it. It's like now the states get to have limitations. So if anything, I can't agree that it's going to go into a purge, but I can understand where that my point might be confusing, and I can
Well,
understand where
I
the
think
first.
actually we took a step backwards because since the states have limitations, like Roe versus Wade, um, since these states have limitations, I just read through you the list. Like there's 8 states that has no limitations. When it was when before Roe versus Wade wasn't abolished, there weren't any states that didn't have any limitations because everything was handled through the higher branch, the government, fully the government, not the state. So yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like most of these people that has these ideologies, they haven't fully educated themselves on what they actually are voting for. Like you just said that, you know, your limit is 6 to 8 weeks. That's most Republicans' limit, right? But you're on the side of the Democrats that, bro, it's 18 Democratic states that their limit is, let me go to it again. So I'm right. Their limit is 24 weeks, way past your limit, and you're okay with them. But anyways, we got DJ Be Fit sends in $2. What's more important to you, your faith or your feelings? It's a good one.
That
What's
is
more
a good
important to you?
question. That's something I need to think about. Just give me. Okay, I think I can do some work studying on my faith a bit more for sure. Try to get a better understanding of what I already know. Um, but I think that, everybody has experiences and an upbringing and things that contribute to their beliefs. And that factors into it as well.
Okay, so
I would say that
how would you answer this question?
I
Faith or
think,
feelings?
oof.
Got to choose one.
I know. That's really hard. I would have to change a lot, but if I truly did have to choose one, I would choose my faith. I would have to
Okay.
change a lot to just choose that.
But
But
currently right now, you are choosing your feelings. Your feelings supersedes your faith for God.
I feel like my feelings, though, are also based on like facts and things that are occurring in the world, as direct outcomes of some of these issues that we touched on. So I think that, like,
But these, like, you haven't really stated any like facts. Like you stated things that, like, most of your arguments was, well, suffering is too hard for some people to manage. So we should give them an escape. And part of the escape is to terminate unborn children. Meanwhile, that isn't fact. Meanwhile, like fact that me and you understand, since you are a woman of faith, we understand that no, there's nothing on this world that God can't bring us through. So no matter what we're dealing with in our life and how bad we're suffering, if we seek God and repent to God, he will bring us through. So since we know those facts, and I can actually speak, not, I don't even have to bring theology in it. There's people in third world countries that don't have clean water, can't gather enough calories to eat, and they still don't terminate their kids. They are pro-life. So if there are people in worse circumstances than people in America, and we're legalizing people that live in the best country in the world to terminate their unborn children, but to have peace. But in other countries where it's not the best country, they're still having their kids. Maybe that's unwanted. Maybe that's through rape. Maybe that's through all of these things, even incest. They're still finding happiness and peace through suffering, which is a fact. If it wasn't a fact, then put it like this. Like, the crazy thing is, do you agree that we live in the best country in the world?
I do, actually.
Got it. So since we live in the best country in the world, and your justification of people terminating their unborn children is the fact that they're suffering, but we know that people are suffering more in other countries outside of America, and they're not terminating their unborn children. They're pro-life. They're having kids, and they still overcome their suffering, meaning that other people in other countries suffer more than we do, and they still have kids. But here in America, we suffer less, but you, in your worldview, you're trying to justify our suffering as being the reason why we should terminate the kid.
I think that America is an amazing country, but I don't think that means that it's perfect.
For sure, yeah.
And I think that we are far above in regards in tolerance and everything like that compared to every other country. America, I truly do think, is a very amazing and fascinating country. Like, I love American history, but the I think that there are people are having their children because they don't have that choice, because they could get in legal trouble if they do have that choice. So I actually have a question for you based off of that, just because, like, I know some people have different opinions.
But yeah, like, that's the thing. People are having children because they don't have the choice to commit murder, right? So, but that's not the argument. The argument is they're having kids, and they're having kids in the worst situations, and they're suffering much worse than we are here in America. But they're still are finding peace and happiness through suffering. Like, they're overcoming the suffering. And when they look in their daughter's or their son's eyes, like, even though I don't have anything to eat, or I lost my job, or we don't have clean water, look at this beautiful baby that I just birthed. I went through all of this for you, my son or my daughter. Like, that's where you find true joy. I have kids, so I know that a lot of my joy and happiness comes from my kids. I'm a man. A lot of my joy and happiness comes from my accomplishments as well. But as a woman, you're the one that's actually bringing the process through. Like, a mother pair bonds with her child. This is why if the baby is crying, her breast milk could come out. It's an actual bond. It's an actual spiritual bond with the baby. And in your worldview, you are promoting women to not experience the most beautiful thing that they can ever experience, which is children.
And I would agree for you. For me, I do want to have children. That is absolutely something I want. And I think that it is a beautiful and amazing experience. At the same time, that might not be the case for all women. And I think that...
Sure. I think all women, like, real quick, like, one of the points that I get that I am totally okay with your worldview is some people don't want to have kids. Totally fine. Then don't have unprotected sex, and don't have sex with guys that aren't worthy, and don't be promiscuous and have gangbangs and do things like that. Be a responsible adult. But the thing is, we create these contraceptives with technology that incentivizes promiscuity in society. So it's like we are stripping away the consequences. But in reality, though, I think women that terminate their kids, they live in mental damnation forever. So
Do
they
you
still feel it gets rid of the physical consequence, but the mental, like the tangible consequence, but the mental consequence, they're on anxiety and depression medications all the time. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, yeah. I feel like I just totally forgot. Let me think. Sorry. We were talking about um terminate. Yeah, not wanting to. Okay, I remember what I was going to say. So, do you think that if we were to get rid of contraceptives, condoms, birth control, etc., um do you think that would reduce sexual activity?
100%. Yeah, because women hold the key to sex, and women hold the bulk of the risk of sleeping with the wrong person. So currently, right now, since we have all of these contraceptives, Plan B and termination of kids and all of these things, what it does is it takes away the consequence from the woman. So therefore, a woman can go out and meet a guy like, yeah, he don't got a job, but he's cute. Yeah, the vibe happens. Let's get down. Let's get busy. Let's have sex. You get what I'm saying? But
Yeah, but do you
because
I
she
feel
knows that she could take a plan B, or she knows if something goes wrong, she can terminate the kid. But I'm stating that if we got rid of all of these contraceptives, women would hold more stake in the men that they choose. So yes, it would limit sexual activity 100%.
so then
Well, it will limit the sexual act. It would limit um uh women choosing, men and women choosing you know poor relationships and bad mates.
well, I've at least I still think that there is a very big majority of people who still choose to have unprotected sex despite all of these contraceptives being out.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for
and
sure.
I think that there's
But
always
but
going to
but but
be some kind of consequence, right? Like if we don't have contraceptives, right, and a woman is more decisive and more thoughtful of who she sleeps with,
uh-huh.
what if she thinks she found the one and then he gives her an STD? There are still some consequences. There are always some consequences there that that would successfully, I think, like steer people away, and that's why, like,
So you got to think about it. With the invention of these contraceptives, birth control, Plan B, condoms, and the ability to terminate an unborn child. With this technology, before this technology, nuclear families was more prominent. It was promoted more. It was the natural way to things. It was the normal way of life. Like, yeah, you meet someone and you don't want to be out there sleeping around, because if you get pregnant, dang, you had a baby by that man, you stuck with that man like forever. You chose the wrong guy. Or even guys. Like, man, yeah, you want to choose the right chick, because if you get her pregnant, it's like, dang, bro, you got to think about it.
so
Like,
do you think that if a you said that women hold the key to sex,
for sure.
but there's also a choice in the man, correct? Like, to participate in it. So then do you also think that all men who impregnate a woman should be there to support that child because they are part of it? You said earlier that the child is 50% of the man.
Correct.
So the man should always be there.
Oh, you mean like if a man knocks a chick up,
Yeah.
but he doesn't want a relationship with the girl? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the guy should take responsibility. Now the thing is, it's funny, is because our laws, it enforces men to take responsibility, but it doesn't enforce women to take responsibility, right? So, for example, if you get pregnant, right? You sleep with a guy and you get pregnant. You have the right to terminate the child. You get it? The man doesn't have the right. He has no say in it at all. He doesn't have the right to say, hey, let's keep it. Let's talk about it. There's no like enforcement mechanism that gives him a right.
And I
But
will
but what I want to conclude here is, meanwhile, if he doesn't want the baby and you still have the baby, by law, he has to pay child support. You get what I'm saying? So
no, and
we
I
here in this nation, we enforce the consequences on men, meaning that, oh, if you have a kid and y'all not in no relationship and it's separated, you got to pay child support for that baby by law. But we don't have any law to put consequences on women. You hear what I'm saying? So by law, we have consequences on men for making poor decisions on sleeping with women that aren't worthy for them by law. Because if they sleep with the wrong chicks, you get pregnant, child support. But we have no law to put any consequences on women. Oh, you sleep with the wrong men? Well, you got Plan B, you got abortion pill. You got Plan B, you got termination of the baby, you got all of these other forms of contraceptives. So all of these things to take away the consequences. So, like, to answer your question, it's very nonsensical how America is operating, because it's destroying dating and relationships. It's giving so much power to the woman when it comes to the dating and mating thing. Like, women already have power in dating and mating because you hold, the key to sex. Men hold the key to relationships. But most men, we have a natural proclivity to like want sex. We have this natural urge. We have it more than women do. So men naturally are, doing, generally, they're going to sleep with a chick even if they don't want a relationship with the chick, right? But this is why women need to have discernment and choose men, to make good judgment and choose men that actually are worthy, that qualifies to be having sex, meaning that they see a future with them. They're thinking about long-term, not just short-term. Do you understand that all of these contraceptives incentivizes women to be promiscuous? Like, do you understand that?
I think it's unfair to just say women, though. Wouldn't it just be everybody?
What, but women, condoms is a form of contraceptives.
Yes.
It does influence everybody. Yes. So it influences the society. Like, it incentivizes the society to be, more promiscuous. But I would say mainly women, because women, like, we got to start where it even starts. Before a baby even happens, it starts with a man and a woman having sex, and women hold that key to sex. So she holds the power.
Okay. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. But
Okay,
what I
what
do
part
agree
don't
with,
you agree with? Start with what part don't you agree with?
I don't agree with that just women hold the key to sex. I
Okay,
think it's too much to tango. But
if women don't hold the key to, if women don't grant access to sex, because that's what the key is. So if women don't grant access to sex, how can a man obtain sex from a woman without it being grape?
couldn't that work both ways, though?
You've ever heard of a woman graping a man? If that did happen, he probably was off of Molly and very drunk, and she slipped something in his drink, and it's a very rare scenario. And even if that happens, how can he even get it up? So, no. I'm
Okay.
sure it happened because we live in a crazy world where a woman raped a man. But that's an exception. That isn't the rule.
Um, that men should have an equal say in the choice of termination. Okay,
Okay, you do agree with that.
maybe not equal, but they should have a significant say. Because at the end of the day,
Well,
like
well,
I
then that
said,
means that we need to grant the men rights. Because, I mean, we all have a say. We can all talk to someone like, hey, dang girl, like I want you to keep the baby. But if she's not feeling it, women prioritize feelings. She's going to go ahead and terminate the baby. So we all have a say, but how can we enforce the man's say? You know what I think? How we enforce the man's say? If we are going to give women rights to terminate the baby, we have to then give men rights to abandon the baby. So it's like, okay, you want to have this baby? Peace. Or, okay, you don't want to have this baby? Like, oh, you don't want to have this baby? Peace. Or it's like, if you don't want to have the baby and you want to terminate it, like fines or something where it's half of his. So if you have this child, you got to pay him X amount. Like you gotta buy out terminating this baby. You get what I'm saying? Like if we're gonna give rights to both, then it has to be, the only way it can be equal if the woman has to pay out. If she wants to terminate the child, the woman has to pay out to terminate the child because she still has the right to do it. But the consequence is, well, you got to pay him some money because half of that of what you're terminating is his, right?
I think that's a very valid expectation.
Yeah, and I just thought of it too. See, this is what happens when you critically thinking and speaking about
valid.
things.
I do think that's valid.
But then the other part of it is like, all right, if women got these rights to do this, men got to have the rights to abandon the baby. Now, I'm not pro any of this. I think women should have the babies, and I think men should take care of the babies. But if we living in some crazy weird world, which it seems like that's where the world is going, and if we're trying to equalize everything, because since it's not equal now, like these feminists and these women, I'm not sure if you're a feminist, but they normally only complain about things that aren't fair to them. They don't really try to equalize everything because there's many things that aren't fair to men. Like I have to sign up for selective service in order to vote and in order to have certain federal jobs. And if war ever breaks out, if I don't go to war, I'm fined or I get put in jail. You, on the other hand, you don't have to sign up for selective service. So you have none of those consequences that I have. Another one, termination of the baby. You can terminate half of what's mine. But if you do keep half of what's mine, I'm obligated by law to pay for that baby. So yeah, the world is all upside down with the Democrats running things. Come on over to the conservative side. We got you. We got you, mama.
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And I don't know if I would consider myself a feminist in this day of age of feminism. I think it's gotten to a point where it's getting like women are better than men rather than just like we want the same things. And so I don't know if I'd consider myself a feminist, but I do think that everything you're saying has truth in it. And I agree. And I do think, and I agree. I agree actually. Like nothing, I think that there needs to be equal consequence, or equal, I guess, expectations.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, think about it. The only way to not incentivize the woman to do it is to have equal consequences.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very good point.
Yeah, but okay, let's get to the rest of the super chats. We got Leo one Don sends in another $2. He says, debate and educate. Appreciate you, bro. We got Nick Merritt sends in $10. Many churches have already accepted these ideologies. It really shows that we are living in the last days. The Bible also says many will turn away from God as we get closer to the end. Very telling. We got JB still supporting, sends in $10. He says, based on stats, more kids were graduating high school as virgins and childless prior to sex making its way into the education system. question. How does she explain that? Question. Her logic would say less. Her logic would say less would be. Okay.
Could you read like
Wanna-
just the first part one more time? And then also like if we could like I'm so sorry, like I don't want this to seem like I'm trying to leave, but like I do need to go pick up my car because it's
Oh
getting
yeah, I'm wrapping up. Yeah, we're wrapping up. We
Okay,
got one more
perfect. Yeah,
super
yeah. So
chat
could
and
you
we're
just
wrapping
read
up.
the
Yeah, because we've been
first
going for like 2.5 hours. No, you're fine.
Okay, yeah. Could you just read the first part
I
again?
got you. Yep. Based on stats, more kids were graduating high school as virgins and childless prior to sex ed, making its way into the education system. How does she explain that? That's the question.
Okay, I think that's a good point to bring up. I think that sex education promotes abstinence, which is a valid choice, but it's not a choice that everybody will make. And whether that's what you believe in or not, I don't think everybody is going to if somebody wants to have intercourse, they're going to have intercourse. And I think that if we I actually think like there was one thing I learned in my sex education that I thought was very interesting, which was safe surrendering. And that is a way to like have your child and still give it somewhere safe, somewhere where someone will take care of it. I think there needs to be more education as a whole, right? Like more about termination and what that could do to a woman and what could happen. I think that
So the
I
cons, not the pros.
yeah, I honestly think that like the sex education that we have right now is not sufficient.
Yeah, so maybe if you leave with one thing, you could leave with this. Influence creates thinking, thinking creates behavior. Now, what is influence? How can we be influenced? Well, we got 5 senses: seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, and hearing. Our 5 senses absorbs, right, the world, and we are influenced. We're influenced to have a liking cheesecake over pound cake. We're influenced to like a big booty rather than a little booty. We are influenced to have a liking to so many things. And our influence creates our perception of the world and our personality and then our behaviors and thereon. So if you leave it one thing, I want you to know that. And when he's saying prior to sex ed, there were more people in high school graduating virgins. So just the education of sex ed is an influence because they are they are seeing visual things and hearing things about sex, which is going to influence. Even though the idea and stance may be to influence them positively, the problem is that we all perceive things differently. Like you can know things. Remember in the beginning of the podcast, we know things all the time, but still make wrong decisions. Like we know what's good, but still do wrong. So just the simple fact that we are knowing, like the sex education system is trying to educate kids on sex. Meanwhile, the stats show that just that education and talking about it is just like Eve eating the apple at the tree. It's like that knowledge now. It's like, okay, like, now I'm going to indulge in this behavior. Make sense?
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, why do you think that, let's say Nickelodeon, like, they're not talking about politics on Nickelodeon? Because it's like, they're not talking about, murder. Like, when you watch like the news, CNN, Fox News, late night, they're always talking about, oh, so-and-so got killed here. Why isn't those things on Nickelodeon? Because that's going to scare the kids. That's going to influence them the wrong way. Like we know these things. But it's crazy how we know that even speaking about sex and showing visual images of this, meaning that they're show in sex ed, what they show images of, penises and vaginas. Like the girl, maybe she never even seen. They do show it. They show it's like black and white and stuff. But I remember when I was in school, it shows the vaginal and things like that. It shows how to put on a condom. All of these things it talks about. So it's actually showing you and giving you knowledge of sex. We should limit the knowledge of sex to kids. This is why when we started increasing the knowledge of sex to kids, they started indulging in sex more. But if we limit the knowledge of sex as we done before, the stats was lower. There were more virgins graduating in high school. But now most of these kids, they ain't virgins when they graduating.
Well, now that we're at a point where most people graduating are not virgins, do you think that we could potentially go back to a time where we limit it again? Fully?
Yeah, we 100% sure, but we're gonna need all the help we can get. So we're gonna need, people that have minds like yours that's so accepting to be not so accepting and to stand 10 toes down on some stuff, As we could do it with the help of you, Juliana. But let me get to this other super chat. We got Nick Merritt sends in $20. This is the last one. Contraceptives is something the devil created to influence man and woman to avoid the consequences of making proper discernment of choosing a proper mate and to just use what God created for just enjoyment. That is facts. Okay, Juliana, I want to thank you for, coming on the debate tonight. I'll leave you with your ending thoughts and ending statement, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah. Well, I still think that I've really enjoyed the conversation we had. I feel like that I learned a lot and I have a lot to think about in regards to my views and my faith. I appreciate you being so open and respectful. And I had a really good good conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I appreciate you. I'm gonna go ahead and just wind down and talk to my chat, but you're able to go ahead and leave the chat now, okay?
All right, thank you so much.
All right, have a blessed one. All right, chat. So, cool debate. Had a young lady on that came on. She was on Jubilee channel. And she's a student, man. And this is what, our education system is influencing, our youth to believe, to have these certain ideologies that's literally full contradiction. But without further ado, man, I've been rocking with y'all for about 2.5 hours or more. So go ahead and like this channel. Go ahead and like this video so it gets pushed into the algorithm. YouTube has been trying to suppress my content with a lot of things. So go ahead and like this video so it gets pushed into the algorithm. Don't be a ninja watcher. Go ahead and actually support. We do have our next live stream is going to be Friday. We have a panel of, I believe, 4 to 6 women on. So stay tuned to that. That's going to be the usual scheduled programming, dating and relationship type content. But I'll be doing another debate with another woke student from the Jubilee podcast next Wednesday. So my team, we hit up a lot of them that debated Charlie Kirk. And now some of them, they're going to be on to debate me. So we're going to give y'all some of these debates with these college students weekly. So every Wednesday is when we're doing them. So continue to support. Other than that, man, I think this podcast was no Fugazee. I gave y'all some new content, a more formal debate. And if y'all like this, man, hit the Discord, bro. I'll definitely be doing more. If y'all want it, support the podcast and hit the Discord, and also like and comment because, we did a blind dating episode, but y'all really didn't like that too much. Like it wasn't a lot of likes. There wasn't a lot of comments, didn't get too many views. So we kind of stopped that. But if y'all like these formal debates and not the open debates, These debates that's more formal, where it's a concise and constructive conversation, please like it. Please like it, because that's the only way it's going to get pushed into the algorithm, and I'm going to get views, and then I'll know, like, okay, well, people are actually watching it. Let me keep doing it. Why would I do something where people isn't watching? That's why I had to stop doing the blind dating episodes. But anyway, without further ado, this podcast is No Fugazi. Stay tuned. Friday, around 8:30, 9 p.m. we going live. Peace. Actually, Gabby, off. You done. And you want to leave too? This is how our relationship goes. God over man, man over woman, woman over children.